this little piece that you're about to see was recorded when I was running the Smoky Mountains 500. I think I was on the yellow section. I think this was on day 3. As you can see in the background picture, it's just a beautiful section, and I got in a reminiscent mood and started thinking back about how I got started riding when I was a kid, and you know, some of the little bikes that I had and stuff like that. I'll put a little bit more detail at the end of the video after this riding segment ends. So I don't know if I've ever talked about how I got into motorcycling. It's a long and inconsistent story. I'm 66 years old, so when I was 10 in 1968, I got a mini bike, like a lot of baby boomers did back in the 60s and 70s, and just love riding it. We had a gravel pit in our neighborhood, and there were other kids who had mini bikes, and you know, we would go there and ride. Mine was pretty basic, but my friend Randy, who, you know, did the first 2 legs of this, he had a Honda Trail 70, which was, of course, way better than my little Sears mini bike or whatever it was. But there was no way I was going to get a Trail 70. My parents just weren't going to do that. And but Randy's my best friend, and you know, he let me ride it quite a bit. He was a nice guy, and so I really liked it. And then, you know, I aged out and went to college, and always enjoyed riding mini bikes, you know, in the woods. So early in marriage, you know, I had 2 kids. We were saving for college. I wasn't making a lot of money yet. I bought a little Honda Elite 80 scooter, and you know, it's an RV scooter. It's what you put on the back of an RV to ride around campgrounds. But I took it to our cabin in Michigan, and I rode all over Hiawatha National Forest in that thing, and I had it for 17 years. I mean, I took it to places you never should have done that. I rode it with street tires. I wasn't completely stupid. I did have tire repair stuff and a basic toolkit. I think I even carried spare gas. So, you know, I did take some precautions, but you know, you really never should have taken that thing where I took it. I never got caught. In other words, I never had a flat. I never ran out of gas. I never had a mechanical breakdown. It's a Honda, so much less likely. So anyway, I had that, like I said, for 17 years, and then I got a bigger scooter because I thought, well, scooters will satisfy my riding ambitions, but they didn't. So I got a Yamaha XT250 Dual Sport, and that is a legit, you know, off-road bike. And I had that, and it was great, but my wife didn't really care for it. I don't know why. So when Honda released the CT125, you know, an update on the Trail 90 and Trail 10s of the 70s and 80s, boy, that was the thing. I thought, you know, I could get one of those. They weigh 260 pounds with a full tank of gas. I could hitch carry it, and you know, I could continue to ride neat places. So I bit the bullet and sold the XT250, which was, you know, about 50 pounds heavier. So I got the little lighter bike. I knew that the Trail 125 is a local roads and about any trail you want to take it on bike. And so I accepted that. And I got it, and my wife liked it a lot. Neither one of us are big people, so we can actually ride it 2 up, and it does pretty good. I have a 13-tooth front sprocket in it. Put KYMCO 244s on it, and really no other great modifications, just basic stuff. And we just really liked it. So bought a second one. I bought them both used. I got 2 nice used ones that were almost new condition, and so we ride those. We call them Happy Trails 125. The other bike is Thing 1, and this one's Thing 2, you know, after the Dr. Seuss characters. And it's wonderful. We have such a good time on them. The first mini bike that I remember getting, or the first anything to ride I remember getting beyond, you know, a bicycle, was I got this Sears mini bike. It was a kind of a fire engine red Sears mini bike, and it was very typical of what kids had back in the, you know, late 60s and early 70s. It was pretty basic. My parents bought it for me used. I think they paid $150 for it. And, you know, like I say, it was pretty basic. I think it had 3.5 horse, no shocks or anything like that. The only thing you had was the padded seat. And I'm sure it wouldn't go much faster than, you know, 20 or 25 mile an hour. We had a gravel pit in our neighborhood, and that was someplace to ride. We did ride them on the streets, but if the cops would catch you, you know, you'd be in trouble. So we always had an eye out for that. I don't have a lot of memories of this bike, but I have one pretty clear memory. I was at the gravel pit riding one day, and some kid that I didn't really know that well, he came up and he said, you know, you should air down your tires. I had no idea what he's talking about, air down the tires. But he told me, yeah, if you let a little bit of air out, it'll be like you have shocks, plus you'll get better traction. So, you know, I let some air out, and by gosh, he was right. It gripped a lot better, and it was a lot softer ride. I do remember going back home on the road, the tires feeling mushy because I didn't have an inflator with me, and so I had to ride back home, which was only a couple miles, with these aired down tires. So my best friend Randy called me one day and he said, come on down, I want to show you something. So I walked down. He just lived down the street, and when I got there, he pulled up the garage door, and his parents had bought him the holy grail of mini bikes, a Honda CT70, a Honda Trail 70, a green one. I couldn't believe it, because that was the prized mini bike that everybody wanted. I'm sure I was a little jealous at the time, but it was great. Like I said, he's my best friend, so he let me ride it quite a bit. In fact, I learned to drive, you know, a 4-speed clutch on that mini bike. It was way more powerful than my little used 3 horsepower Sears mini bike, and so we could ride it 2 up because it was pretty powerful, and we had such a great time on that bike. Okay, the little Honda Elite 80 RV scooter, I mentioned in the video that I had it for 17 years, got it during early marriage, and then, you know, had it for all those years. That's the bike that I've had the longest in my life and have probably ridden the most. I don't know if it's I've ridden it the most distance, because obviously I wasn't going real far on a little 80cc scooter, but as far as hours in the seat, that's probably, I've ridden that more than anything. Again, you know, just a little RV scooter. Like I said, I rode it everywhere over up in the Upper Peninsula, and never had a breakdown, never ran out of gas. It had the original tires on it at the end of 17 years. I did have a flat at home one time on the front tire, and took it off, put a tube in it, patched the tire, and then rode it for, I think, another couple years after that. Funny thing is, I don't remember doing any maintenance on it. You know, I did oil changes, but that's the only thing I ever remember doing to that bike. I don't remember adjusting the brakes. I don't remember doing anything other than, yeah, I did change the oil and, you know, keep the tires where they were supposed to be. But it only weighed 172 pounds, I think I looked up, and had a 1.3 gallon gas tank, and you could just go all day with that thing. And anyway, it was an awful lot of fun, and it kept me a little bit in the riding game when that's all I could afford, and you know, kind of led me to other things. The next bike that I got after the little Honda Elite 80, again, had it for 17 years, and you know, my wife and I would ride it together, and it would do it, you know, but 80 cc's, it's not going to be all that great. So anyway, we decided, all right, it's time to sell the little Honda Elite 80 scooter. And we ended up getting a KYMCO, I think it was called a Like CT125i scooter. It was a really nice medium-sized scooter. I think it weighed about almost exactly the same as the CT125, about 260 pounds. I think it had 11.5 horse, had about a 30 or 31 inch seat height, and it was made to carry 2 people. It had a CVT transmission, so no shifting, just twist and go. So it was a great around town scooter. And of course I took it on the trails up by our cabin in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, rode it all over up there. But we ended up only having it for 2 years, because it was during that time that I started getting really more serious about wanting a legitimate, off-road bike. And so at the end of the second season that I had it up there, I determined, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and sell this fall, and then during the winter look for, a legit dual sport bike. And so that's what I did. The first off-road motorcycle that I ever had was a Yamaha XT250, a great small dual sport bike. If you only had one motorcycle that you wanted to do everything, setting aside doing, open road touring or something like that, get a Yamaha XT250. Those things are great. They do everything well. They weigh less than 300 pounds. You can hitch carry them. It would carry my 160 pounds at over 80 miles an hour. It would cruise 70 on the interstate, so you could even get it on highways for short periods of time or even long periods of time. And it was just great. They're known to be extremely durable. You can just beat them to death and they keep going. They're kind of like a DR-650 in that way. And it was a great bike. It's the bike that I sold and missed the most, no doubt about it. But what happened was 2 things. I only had it for a couple years, and like the KYMCO scooter. My wife never liked it. I don't quite know why. She just never took to it. And also, gosh darn it, Honda released the latest incarnation of the Honda Trail 90. Only now, of course, it was a Trail 125. And from the time they did that in, 2021, I knew I had to have one. But as most people watching this video know, you couldn't get one. They're really rare for the first, really until late 2024, they're a little bit more plentiful now, but you couldn't get one. So I continued to ride the XT250, but knowing that at some point I would probably have to sell it and get the CT125. But it was a great bike, and like I said, I miss it to this day. I haven't actually given up on getting another one. Could happen. Well, I was waiting to be able to get my hands on one of the new Honda CT125s. I let nostalgia get the better of me, and I ended up with a 1970 Honda Trail 90. And this was while I still had the Yamaha XT250. I found it, a fully restored one. It was outside of Chicago, so I drove 6 hours each way and got this thing, and it was great. And if you've ever ridden one of the old classic Honda Trail 90s, they top out at 40, 45 mile an hour, even for a person of my size. And their party trick, though, is they have the dual range transmission, and you put it in low range, and that thing will climb a wall if it can get traction. It's really impressive how much power Honda manages to wring out of a 90cc engine. And this thing was gorgeous. It had been redone to the nth degree, and so it was great. I had the XT250, and then I had the nostalgia bike. Problem is I had a lot of nostalgia to get the upgraded, or the latest incarnation of the Honda Trail, the new CT125. But as we all know, and I'm sure most of you know who are watching this, you couldn't get them. They were rare as hen's teeth until 2024 probably, and I think they're still difficult to get in some areas of the country. Where I live, they're a lot more plentiful now. They're not, they don't command the prices that they once did. But anyway, I had the Trail 90, I had the XT250, and then suddenly the CT125s started to become a little bit easier to get, and that's where the story will take off. So I'm surfing around through Facebook Marketplace one day, and was shocked to see an ad for a CT125 less than half an hour from my house. Turns out this guy, he had two of them, and he had bought one of the new Honda 150s, and so he wanted to offload one of his CT125s. So anyway, put it on Facebook Marketplace. It was a few hours before I saw the ad. I made a beeline over there. I hadn't ridden one yet. So anyway, I rode it, loved it, bought it, brought it home, and now I had, the ideal combination of old and new. I had a 2021 Honda Trail 125, and I had a 1970 classic CT90, and so everything was great, or so I thought, until I rode the Trail 125 a little bit more, and that's where my dilemma came about. So I have the 1970 CT90, and now I have a 2021 CT125. It's like the ideal combination of old and new. We called them mustard and ketchup. One was yellow and the other one was red. And it was great. And it continued to be great for, I don't know, a month or so. And of course, I was kind of biased towards riding the new motorcycle, which was the CT125, and I would ride it. And then, I would get on the CT90 and ride it, and I hated to admit it, but the CT125 was so much better in every way, setting aside nostalgia. And it even, of course, had a nostalgia factor to it. But, more than half a century of technological development is a thing that can be felt. And the CT125 was so superior to the CT90, in every way, that I started to get in my mind, do I want to sell the CT90 and get another CT125? And man, that was a hard decision, but that's what I ended up doing. I bit the bullet, sold the CT90, gave up a little bit of the nostalgia, and went shopping for another CT125, which by this time were not that much easier to get, but I lucked out again. I found one that wasn't that far away, that had low miles. The price was okay. I figured I saved somewhere around $1,500 versus, buying a new one from what was essentially a new bike. And the second CT125 the guy had already put new KYMCO 244s on it. So there was a little bit of savings there. And so anyway, we now have the two CT125s. We call them Happy Trails 125. The first one is Thing 1. The second one is Thing 2. We named them after the Dr. Seuss characters because they're identical. They're both 2021 CT125s. So we have a little bit of fun with that. And the one that's in the background here is Thing 2. It's the one that I take when I do long trips. It has the front rack on it, and I made a few. It has the tank bag and a few other modifications that Thing 1 does not have. We keep Thing 2 set up most of the time for two-up riding. It has the seat on it. They both have passenger pegs on them because the seat's easy to transfer if we want to, ride two-up on this one, on Thing 2. But both bikes have just been great. And